Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. So we're in for another what I would call Neptunian week in this waning moon cycle, and it's interesting to me how the planet Neptune seems to be in dialogue with Moon throughout the week. And what is going on with Neptune is that it is at the final stages of the sign of Pisces, something we've been experiencing for a very long time because Neptune is a slow-moving planet, and so it's remained in this sign since 2011. We have been experiencing this sense of miasma, the cloudiness, the indefinition of so many things, the eradication of truth, of facts, the absolute proliferation of self-medications and drugs that obliterate one's passion or drive for life in general. And this sense of overall helplessness or victimization, which is all the negative sides of Neptunian energy. Neptune is the spectrum of victim to savior and everything in between, the artist, the healer, the helper, one who sacrifices. And as we make our way through this arc, it seems like we're really missing the overall concept of what Neptune means. The god of the sea, the planet is mainly water, our bodies are mainly water. Our most precious resource is water. And so Neptune symbolizes, among other things, the highest octave of love, because what ideally should connect us all is the sense of how we're all one. But in this distortion that we've been experiencing, manipulated by social media and those who want to drive a sense of victimization to divide us, we are seeing not the best side. And we're in the last gasps of Neptune in Pisces. It'll move into Aries this year, and Aries begins, it's warrior. I'd love to say it's going to be the beginning of the real peace train, but all the signs show that it will be a war of the wills who wins this battle. So with this contemplative week of Neptune influencing so much of our moods, here's how to best navigate the energy. So February 17th, oh my goodness, is President's Day in the United States. I can't even begin to guess what that's going to mean in this very weird new profiling that the United States is doing. The positive of this is that as we go through this extreme metamorphosis, it can precipitate a revolt or a correction. Whether that's going to happen or not has a great deal to do with, well, the will of the people, but also how possible it is to manipulate structures that seem to be just falling apart. So on today, President's Day, in the United States. But just another February 17th in the rest of the world, the times I give are Eastern time zones, so you'll need to adjust depending on where you are. The moon is in the sign of Libra. Now, Libra moon ideally is looking for diplomacy, peace negotiations, ways to mitigate situations. It is for people who are skilled in especially air endeavors, so using verbal communication, how we relate culturally. And it doesn't just have to be verbal, like words out of our mouth. It's also the graciousness of how we communicate, respect, give and take. These things are very big with Libra, especially when the moon is well aspected, which overall it is today. However, I do see a smokescreen kind of thing when I look later in the day. So be aware if you're having a discussion and it seems as though everyone is on the same page or coming to terms. Be aware that you want something factual put down. Give me a signature. Let's shake hands. But shaking hands doesn't mean much in today's world. The old phrase gentleman's agreement I read recently the word women is being totally eradicated from any federal information in U.S. policy. So everything is the word men. Interesting. But this way of correcting and bringing equilibrium can be strong on Monday the 17th, but it requires give and take and not having facts be obfuscated, really asking for verification, details, assuming nothing. And that's kind of tricky to do because the combination is goodwill and intention, but also realizing that you want to understand everything that each person is putting on the table or not putting on the table in negotiations. So overall, good day, especially when goodwill is what we're really working on. How do we promote a sense of fairness and a sense of, let me include you in this picture, let me make sure I hear what you need to say, and we are coming together for resolution. The moon goes void, of course, at 6:24 p.m., and it's that way for about 45 minutes. It enters Scorpio at 7:19 p.m. Now, when the moon is void, of course, it means that there's no emotional attachment to the outcome of a conversation, a situation, intention. And when there's no emotional glue, the parties are not really invested in how things are going to happen. Why do we buy certain products? Why do we give to certain charities? Why do we invest in certain things? Usually it's because there's an emotional charge connected to it. So that's why when the moon is void, of course, it's not making any geometric aspects to another planet. There doesn't seem to be a reason, an attachment to why someone would follow through with something. So get things signed or contracted or agreed on before it goes void, of course, keeping in mind that Mars is still retrograde until February 23rd. Once the moon enters Scorpio, we are in very different energy in that Scorpio wants to go deeper. We're done with those surface conversations. We want to plumb the bottom of the ocean and really understand what's going on. Now, the immense positive of this is that a lot of things can be unearthed and discovered. So if you're feeling a little uneasy or not really clear on something that you want to make happen, or you don't feel like everything is on the surface, this is a terrific time to go under the hood and even deeper. And what's challenging about it, especially the evening of Monday, is that we may get into some friction there, especially if someone's feeling like they have to keep something quiet or they don't want to disclose something. So it's going to be a very interesting evening, especially after this day that might have felt more like olive branches, etc. Then in the evening, the actual, well, what about this and what about that may come to a head. Now, the positive about it, especially as we get into Tuesday the 18th when the sun enters Pisces, is that there is more willingness to work on this with people who are able to just do the healing and the what must be done with almost surgical precision. Okay, this sucks. I don't like this, but we have to do something about it. Scorpio is one of the signs that gets dissed a lot. People don't really, if they're not comfortable with the energy, it's really easy to just want to move away from it or consider it difficult to deal with. And there's many reasons for that, of course. I think part of what is important to understand about Scorpio energy is that it doesn't, it really wants to know a situation inside and out, even what's uncomfortable about it. And in its best manifestations, it is absolutely brilliant in situations of crisis, because the Scorpion energy, and I don't mean the little critter that bites and stings, but it can feel like a bite or sting initially, because we don't want to experience the pain. Most humans avoid that. There are times when we want to experience the pain, or we welcome another pain because we don't want the deeper pain that really hurts. That's a very interesting phenomena that I know many people do, especially with, as I said earlier, the self-medication, ways we inflict ourselves with pain because everything hurts and we just want to escape from it, which usually causes even more hurt. So the Scorpion energy that runs through these couple of days that I'm looking at, once Pisces goes into the sun, can really bring a lot of very deep healing energy. So if you've been wanting to clear away, purge, have a fresh approach on something. Yes, I know it's waning moon cycle and Mars is retrograde, but I'm talking about emotional commitment. That sense of, I have to purge. I can't ignore this anymore. And there's a reality that is happening throughout the world where the tendency of many of us might be to just turn away, shut our eyes, not deal with it, because we're seeing just immense power grabs occurring throughout the world. And the the giant chess game that is just brutal, that's indifferent to human life, just looking at everything as, resources and land grabs and access to water. It's stunning. But it's not going to go away by closing eyes or self-medicating. So through this scorpionic tunnel that is offered to us over these couple of days, there's a real opportunity to just get away. It's not that we can run from the grief and the pain and the sadness, but Scorpio's first ruling planet before Pluto was discovered is Mars. It's tremendous warrior energy. So whatever, even if it's a small thing that you can do in a warrior capacity to assert, put energy out there for a wrong you want to right, or to bring more love in the world, then do it. Some of us are more comfortable with joining large meditation circles or ways to help with getting food or supplies like that, which is more and more difficult to do, you must realize, because the greater powers want to tap off those resources so that they can win what they want to win. So even if it's small things within your community, wherever you begin, because it's not true. Now remember, Neptune's all about illusion, as well as about spiritual ascension. So the illusory part is saying it doesn't matter the little things you do when the world's in pain. It does not matter. But this is incorrect. It does matter. It does matter when we help people, when we educate youth, when we give youth a sense of power so that they can move into more areas of power and strength. These things help. We have to move quickly. That's one of the things that's so on the table now, because we've got chaos now. 2025 was always going to be like that. But the question is, does the chaos take us to a complete turn of the wheel, or does the wheel spin irrevocably to destruction? Okay, not trying to be gloomy here on these good days, because these are good days. So Wednesday, really focus on thinking, okay, what can I do to shake it up a little? To maybe move myself to a place that feels a little uncomfortable, but I'm moving the dial a little. I feel like something may be happening, like a change. There's a configuration in the sky in the early evening, late afternoon that signals something may come in, a surprise. It can feel like an upset. It may even be, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that, or I can't believe he just said that. But whatever it is, we get to react to it. And how we react to it has everything to do with our thinking about, is this really the way I want to respond? So with that trigger that can occur at that point in time, it's really important we're conscious and we say, okay, what is the most constructive way I can use this to clear away any emotional clutter or craziness or things that really just don't matter anymore, and gain more clarity of purpose and, once again, the higher octave of love. This is really why we're all here. Don't listen to the buzz that tells you to hate and divide. We're really all here to learn to love one another. And when we don't, it causes wounds that we cannot escape. It confronts us throughout our daily life, just the pain and sadness in the world. So you can work small. You don't have to. Very few of us get to be wonderful leaders and voices of peace and messages. But we can do it in ways that are constructive, but also in a warrior capacity. It's not a time for sideline action now. Whatever the action is, always remember you're doing it from the heart and you're doing it decisively. It's alienating when we don't work from the heart, and too many of us in today's world are thinking more than we're loving and feeling. And it hurts. Believe me, I understand. It hurts to see the sadness, agony, and pain that is around us, or not necessarily around us, but we know it's there. But the way to move it is in a way that is assertive. So the moon goes void, of course, at 5:06 a.m., again Eastern Time, on the 20th. And it enters the sign of Sagittarius at 7:55 a.m. Now, you may think that Sagittarius energy, a fire, mutable sign, is more powerful at cutting through, making things happen, etc., etc. Well, it certainly gets up and moves, but it's not necessarily as strategic as that Scorpio energy was in the past couple of days. So especially if we really didn't plan our strategy on those days, or take emotional assessment of where we're at. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat this. If you're in a sense of real pain and something is calling to you over the midweek time, go into it. See what it's about. Because we can't, tamp down grief or sadness or things that aren't right. We can't, we can do it for a while, but sooner or later it gets this kind of jack-in-the-box reaction. Oh, wow, that dated me. Sooner or later it has this surprise reaction where something just comes out and we just can't contain it anymore. So over the next couple of days with that Sag energy, that can definitely be a manifestation if we've kept something quiet. But I don't think it's necessarily bad, especially if we're, again, conscious of it and working with it. Surfing with it, I would say, is the best analogy with all this Neptunian energy. Think about it. We are everything, the ground underneath our feet is changing. And what seem to be foundations and really stable are just falling apart. So when that shift is occurring, then the answer isn't necessarily to fall into the chasm. Of course, in some cases, that happens. But the art is to rebalance and shift and hold course on the surfboard. But the most important thing is to be clear of your course. So even if it's just as simple as thinking in your head, I am holding for that higher octave of love, even when everything seems chaotic around you, that you want to hold the ideal that connectivity is possible and there's a way through, then we'll get there. We absolutely will get there. So with the moon in Sag, perhaps the rockiest day may be Friday the 21st. I think part of what I'm seeing here is there's so many options in front of us that the important thing is, again, choose your course. Where are you going? And yes, if things shift, then how do you rebalance and address where you're going next? But start with the direction. Communication is super, super important Sag is fast. So what can happen is we throw out an idea, a thought, a concept, something we need to say, or somebody says, and then another person volleys back, and it goes back and forth. But the important thing is be clear on what you're saying. Even if things are amusing or humorous, it's important not to be flip, to make sure that all people are heard, because it can boomerang. As the day proceeds, one of the things that becomes really apparent is who are the trusted support systems. And some of us may feel as though they aren't there. And so as we get into evening, we might want to reflect on, well, okay, if I can't rely on this, how do I get what I need from another resource, or can I make that happen from my own personal resources? And so it's important to look at it clearly, because we get in trouble if we continue to rely on something that is not supportive. I guess an analogy is, I have this wall outside my house, the perimeter of my house. And the wall was not constructed right originally before we lived here. And so I now know that short of knocking the wall down, which I'm loath to do because I don't really want an open wall where I live, that every 4 or 5 years I have to have people come and recreate the integrity of the wall through scraping down and resurfacing and etc. So I know what I have to do with the support system in order to keep it going. It doesn't mean it's a bad support system, but I have to have a good calendar and memory to think, okay, this needs to be fixed, because I don't want the wall to fall down. So that's an analogy for whatever may be happening in a personal network, or who's good at doing what. And it's okay if somebody has a weakness, or they're just, this is not their strength, as long as you don't expect them to do it. You have a way that they can do their part in it, but then there's another thing that follows through, because otherwise the wall will fall. So the moon goes void, of course, at 3:33 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd. Saturday overall looks like a day of perhaps many changes, fast moves, and then as we're approaching that void, it can be a bit of confusion. Oh, we're supposed to go to this party, but MapQuest keeps taking me somewhere else. So you want to make sure that there are times when it's really valuable to have done the homework before, actually print a map out, or because things can go awry. Again, I'm giving I'm giving ideas. I don't know exactly what everybody's going to be doing, but it's that kind of thing. Let's have something tangible and not assume that we know it's all going to work out just through magic at some point in time, because it'll probably get confused. Once the moon's void, of course, from that mid-afternoon through 6:09 p.m. when it enters Capricorn, it's just a great time to expend energy, to be in nature, to do things without any sense of, this is a launch or this is something I want to make happen. When the moon is in Capricorn, it's actually a really solid night for getting firm information, knowing where you're at, and addressing practical matters. Sunday, the 23rd, yay, is when Mars goes direct. It goes direct at 9 o'clock in the evening. Yes, it's going to be in its shadow energy over the next couple of months. That means when it's retracing the steps of where it had begun the retrograde. But Mars direct, for those of us who have strong Aries or Scorpio or prominent Mars, is going to feel a lot better than when it was retrograde. Nonetheless, when the planet switches directions like this, from our perspective, again, it's not like it's suddenly doing an about face in the sky. It can be a day when, oh my, something just really seems to shift within what we thought our day was. So, overall, I'd say the day looks strong because it's moon in Capricorn. So those of us who had done our planning figured out what was going on in this day. It's an overall good day for making things happen and in a very practical way to manifest again that highest octave of love. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.